I'm not an extrovert. I don't have many friends. All my life I've been one of those shut up and get along kind of guys. I've just kept my head down and worked hard to provide for what God has given me, my wife and children. And yes, by the way, my wife is from Central America. I grew up poor, so I have no disillusions on life. The poor work for the rich, and the golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. A poor person can choose their final destination. However, a poor man does not get to decide his own destiny. The rich decide the destiny of the poor. This is the way it has always been. Most of the time we have had to swallow our pride and take a load of unnecessary crap from our bosses just to keep our jobs. Very few times have we had the luxury to say, take this job and shove it. But lately, it's become harder and harder to keep food on the table. I am plumb worn out, and I feel my soul as heavy as an anvil. I don't really worry all that much because I can see further than most. Generally speaking, most of us do not have the time to worry about things that are beyond our control. My mom used to have a plaque on her wall that said, God grant me the patience to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When I was young, I didn't understand that, but now I do. No man is an island unto himself, meaning I alone cannot affect change by myself. So I need family and friends, heck, even complete strangers to understand this fact. Together, we can make our voices heard. The French just took it on the chin for far too long by their monarchy and finally overthrew them in what is famously called the French Revolution, where the people stormed the palace with hoes and pitchforks, overthrew the knights and guards that were armed with swords, then killed all the rich, arrogant ones on the spot, and then publicly hung or beheaded the rest. The masses have always had the power to change things, yet they were left to this drastic and dire situation because they allowed themselves to become dominated by the few. In this country, to keep that from happening, we elect our own people to speak for us. It is a government consisting of its own people, families, friends, relatives, people you should be able to trust. Now do not get me wrong, the golden rule still applies to politics. Who has the gold rules the country. So the rich have always been in charge. But it was the rich here in the United States of America, the ones we call the Founding Fathers, that were being oppressed the most by the monarchy of England. So after a couple of 100 years, they had grown powerful enough, and then they decided to throw off the chains of bondage and tyranny when they wrote the Declaration of Independence. They wrote it in such a way that the poor knew and understood that we are all in this together. Regardless of social or economic status, rich and poor were in the same boat. We survive and thrive together, or we crash and burn and sink together. Now let's be honest, the rich could not pull off this coup d'etat, this revolution, this overthrowing of tyrannical and barbaric oppression without the poor people. Besides, somebody had to fight and be the cannon fodder, and the rich were not about to volunteer for the front lines where one is nearly destined to lose their life. They left that up to the ones with no choice, the brave but poor ones who have been fighting for every inch since birth. I'm not one of those people that gives a crap what you think of me, although most of us, being perfectly honest, do not wish to be portrayed in a negative light. But I watched a news article so divisive that it needs to be addressed and quickly. A woman called out Trump voters as rural Christian nationalists. Then she goes on to say, oh, I'm not against Christians, just Christians that think your rights were given to you by God and not government. Then goes on basically to say that we are the enemy. If we get our rights from government, then she is saying that as poor people, we get our rights from the rich people in government. Well, if lines had to be drawn in the sand, then I'm standing on the side of redneck hillbilly country hicks, poor Christians that absolutely believe in God and also believe in this country as under God. And yes, we are indivisible, because we may be poor and hicks, but we understand that it is God that we bow the knee to. And yes, our freedoms and liberties come from Jesus, because he is the only king that ever purposely lived poor and willingly died for the poor, for the meek, and for the downtrodden. Metaphorically speaking, we have always had the boot of the rich on our faces and necks, and now the rich have made a declaration of war against the poor in this country and blame us for all the nasty things that they are doing. I'm sure by now you realize that the news media is just a means of social control by the rich to influence nationally the way we should think, keeping us, the poor, divided by pitting black against white, when it's really the rich against the poor. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen where someone recorded the overlapping voices of news reporters reading the exact same script and going from one person to 5, then 10, then 50, just news reporters saying the exact same thing. If you think I'm just being paranoid by saying we are being mentally conditioned on what to think, then you are burying your head in the sand. Yet I'm sure this woman was no different, that the same garbage was being espoused everywhere by the local trusted news reporters, just blindly reading off the teleprompter what they are paid to say regardless of what they really think. So let me be blunt. The free elections are the only thing that has made this government be for the people and by the people. We choose who speaks for us. If you have never seen the documentary movie called 2,000 Mules, then this is the time to do some homework. This movie shows how the Democrats during the last election cycle had Biden elected into office via mail-in ballot fraud. The elections were stolen by the Democrats using the COVID pandemic as a cover to tell everyone to stay home so that they could use the mail-in ballots to tip the scale of the elections. If you have heard this rumor but never investigated it yourself, then you are being purposefully ignorant. And for this case, just dumb as a box of rocks. Take your blinders off for once. This is the end game, and the stakes, which are your freedoms and liberties, are on the chopping blocks. However, for many years, those too elderly or too physically handicapped to go into polling stations were given mail-in ballots, and the military members that were overseas were given mail-in ballots. And to be brutally honest, these ballots were usually not sufficient in number to change an election. So for the first time in about 100 years or an entire century, instead of stopping the vote count at midnight and announcing a winner during this 2020 election cycle, it took days, weeks to finally count and recount the votes. Now, obviously, before the advent of the counting machines being used in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the vote was registered and counted by hand. So if the race was super close, whereas the votes of the elderly and military could possibly sway an election, then a few more days could be consented before giving the final tally. But for the majority of the nation's history, taking the time for counting the mail-in ballots was absolutely unnecessary. So you would know who the winner of almost all 50 states would be before midnight, and by morning you'd be watching reruns or highlights of the winner celebration, the loser giving their concession speech. This country is called the melting pot because we are a nation of immigrants from every country, and we welcome those who are willing to come and work hard with us to make this place a better place for us all. However, there's a huge difference between legal migration and invasion. Those who use our legal system of immigration are called legal immigrants, and those who sneak across the border illegally are called illegal aliens. However, this time the Democrats have made a bid to make their wins at the polls during the election cycle more permanent. They noticed that the polls across the United States were so evenly split that they saw the opportunity to flip most red states permanently blue by having cities swear in Democratic delegates by flooding those Democrat-ran cities with illegal aliens. Of course, then they treat these illegal aliens like kings by putting them up in 4- and 5-star hotels for free, then giving them free food and entertainment, free spending money to go shopping with, and then give them the right to vote. No license or identification required. The only thing these illegal aliens need to vote is an address. So they commandeered the hotels, schools, homeless shelters, YMCA facilities, closed military bases, and so forth to house a huge influx of illegal aliens. These illegal aliens have been promised all this free stuff at the expense of the tax-paying citizens that work. And believe me when I say these illegal aliens have no intentions of working or paying for anything because they were promised everything is for free by President Biden and his administration. And so far it has been, no bill due. Now, one thing I know for sure is that the fentanyl epidemic in this country is not coming through law enforcement. So for every illegal alien they have caught, there are 2 or 3 they do not. So if they are saying 7.5 million to 10 million illegal aliens have come into our country, then the real number is more like 20 to 30 million. And since they do not need a license to vote, most of these illegal aliens will end up voting Democrat at least 4 or 5 times at different polling stations within the same city, just to keep those free benefits they have. If necessary, they could bus or fly these illegal aliens to other Democratic states or cities to do the same. So conservatively speaking, I am expecting about 45 to 50 million new illegal alien votes on this upcoming 2024 election. And yes, they are all voting Democrat. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. However, guaranteed, they will vote however many times they need to win. The Democratic cities are acting like heroes to these illegal aliens by acting as sanctuary cities, but not for no reason. The 2024 census will give these states more Democratic delegates to win, and it's the delegate votes that quickly decide when the nominees have enough delegates to call the race over. If Texas became Democratic, then you could win an entire election just by winning 3 states: New York, California, and Texas. Stop the vote. The Democrats have won the election again. Then add with it 2 or 3 other states with high populations such as Illinois, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, or North Carolina, and it's a landslide. But now you know why they are not allowing Texas to secure their borders. They are trying to flip the state to become Democratic. I know it sounds crazy, but 10 states boast half the population of the 50 United States. Speaking of population, the next official census is supposed to be in 2030, since we just had one in 2020. And population census polls are supposed to be conducted every 10 years. However, before they vote for the president this election cycle in 2024, they will complete a census on April the 12th of 2024 that will ensure the Republicans never win again by flipping Texas and bolstering the delegate counts in New York and California. And for those people thinking, what census? They are only recounting the population in the Democratic sanctuary-ran cities, because this is the only place where the population has sufficiently changed enough to require census. And it's all about the narrative and spinning the viewpoint. The Democrats will simply say, well, the census was conducted as a reward for honorable actions of these brave Democratic mayors and governors for taking in these poor unwanted souls that were fleeing oppression in their own countries and ran to our open arms for protection. So how could we turn them away during this time of need? But these good mayors and governors were paying for these people out of their own coffers or city budgets. So to reward their heroic action, we took a census to recompense these cities with emergency government aid that is so rightly deserved. And if they have won a few delegates and votes in the process, then so be it. Have they not earned it? And those trying to unjustly politicize this national emergency, then let me say that the Republican states could have taken in these immigrants as well, but they left them out in the cold. And for their dishonorable actions, received no delegates, no voters, and no government assistance. So shame on them. Didn't Jesus say, treat others as you would want to be treated? But look at their actions. These rural Christian nationalists, they're hypocrites. To which I respond, stop and smell what you are shoveling. It wasn't a national emergency when they allowed these illegal aliens to flood in through the open borders. But now, all of a sudden, it's an emergency? The majority of these illegal aliens were not fleeing oppression. Some were. But the majority were told, if you come here to the United States, which is one of the greatest first world countries, the land of dreams, then we will make those dreams come true by letting you live here for free. We will take care of you for life. The Democrats, being the rotten cheaters they are, have found a way to permanently kill off the Republican Party and make them so irrelevant that voting Republican will not mean or count for anything anymore. April the 12th will go down in history as the demise, or simply put, the death of the Republican Party at the hands of their brothers, the Democrats. Now you tell me who is Cain and who is Abel in this scenario. And for those who have never read the Bible, the first recorded murder was in the case of 2 brothers. A man named Cain killed his brother named Abel. Understand that when the Republican Party dies, so does choice, and the very 2-party system this government was based on. There is no democracy when there is only one party running everything forever. That's a dictatorship in plural form, meaning you will have many masters. This will give the Democrats absolute, unchecked free reign to do whatever they wish, and I guarantee you the first thing they will do is abolish the Constitution, and along with it, your freedoms and liberties, such as the freedom of speech and the right to bear arms, to say goodbye to social media, and stand by to have your guns collected by force. Of course, that's after the volunteer gun turn-in, where they give you an exorbitant and gaudy or ostentatious sums of money for your guns. An unarmed populace is easy to control. The second thing that they will do is establish a national cryptocurrency so that they can track everything you buy and sell. They will also tell you what you can and cannot buy, such as guns, weapons, anything that could fight them. They will place tracking chips in you to ensure you are not gathering together to overthrow them. But of course, They will also be mandatory after they get their suckers who are willing to be chipped by paying them exorbitant amounts of money to be chipped and selling them on how they will be protected, probably by an artificial intelligence that will monitor their safety, keep them silenced, divided, and working while being monitored constantly. Slavery comes in many forms, people. God never called us to be cowards, much less slaves. Stand up and call out the Democrats for selling out this country, for selling out you. They have taken bribes from foreign powers who are trying to undermine and have now successfully destroyed our way of government that is supposed to be for the people and by the people. The only way to set things straight is to either deport these illegal aliens or put them to work. However, none of these people came here to work. They have come here to be pampered for the rest of their lives at the expense of the hard-working, tax-paying citizens for perpetuity, which means for life, which for the blind means that the rich Democrats and governments have made the citizens of this country into permanent slaves. I don't know about you, but I didn't vote to pay for some stranger's bills for life, because it's not like there are Democratic billionaires or governments just generously giving away their money. While these illegal aliens chill out in 5-star hotels in New York or other such places, ask yourself, who is paying the bills for all of these free rooms and services? How much longer will we foot the bill? The Democrats are not doing this out of the kindness of their hearts, much less out of their own pockets. The Democrats have saddled us, the rural Christian nationalists, for paying these bills. If you're wondering why food is so expensive lately, ask yourself, who is feeding all these people? The rural Christian nationalists are. I'm sure you have been shopping in the grocery store and heard the advertisement that says, round up at the register to help out the hungry. It's starting to sink in, isn't it? That digital change goes into a digital account which gets filtered to pay for the free food for these 30 million people that are here illegally. Food is and always will be a supply and demand issue. Well, the demand just went up by 30 million more mouths to feed. So if you are wondering why the price at the register has risen by 300% in 3 years, well, now you know. If you are wondering why there are food shortages, well, now you know. If you are wondering why bills are so hard to pay lately that it feels like your back is breaking, well, now you know. Wake up and realize you have been saddled by the Democrats and you are being ridden like a horse, carrying the dead weight of these illegal aliens who have absolutely no intentions on becoming good, hard-working, tax-paying citizens. Not when they are being given everything for free, especially a free ride on us. But there is a peaceful solution, and as crazy it may sound, there is something you can do about it. Trump has promised to deport these freeloaders, which will also free us from this bondage. And this is advice as much as it is a warning. Unless every two-party, God-fearing person, despite color, religion, or ethnic persuasion, doesn't get out there and vote for Trump this election cycle in 2024, then you may never get another vote again without there having to be another revolution. Whether you hate Trump or not, he is the only candidate that will deport these illegal aliens, and for others to say they would do so would be political suicide. This problem is going to end one of three ways. Number one, we unite and vote Trump into office, who will get rid of the illegal aliens by deportation. 2, the Democrats win and settle the tax-paying people of the United States permanently while we cower in our corner and be silent like good little pack mules while the illegal aliens flaunt their power to fist fight with our cops in the streets and walk away, rape and murder our daughters and walk away, while robbing the rest of us and walking away because the Biden administration is protecting them. If you ever wondered why the Biden administration is protecting these illegal aliens so fervently, it's because each one person equals 4 or 5 votes. They are protecting their new voter base, their cash cow, their sure victory in perpetuity. That's why these illegal aliens can commit crimes and be out the next day. Every illegal alien behind bars or deported means less votes. Or the Democrats cheat again and we go into a civil war to replace this corrupt government full of cheaters, liars, and corrupt sellout politicians. But before you pick up a weapon, at least vote first so that you can say that we tried to do this peacefully. I will not be the coward and be silent second option, and neither should you. And honestly, I have no problem laying down my life to keep my daughter's freedoms and liberties intact. But I would rather try a peaceful solution first. And the reason I say vote for Trump is because he is the only one not on the payroll of big government. As far as I'm concerned, there are about 10 people in the whole system who have not sold their souls and want to fight the good fight, like Mark Robinson, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, John Kennedy, Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, and even though he's kind of shifty at times, Ted Cruz. Heck, I would even throw Dan Bongino into the mix if he would run. However, I'm talking about men and women with backbones who have a moral compass. Yet none of these swing it like Trump does because Trump has nothing to lose and no strings. He owes no favors, and that's why they hate him. Trump is no savior, but he is the only man who can do what is right and necessary at this time and get it done without committing political suicide. I don't mean to be dramatic, but it's Trump, permanent subjugation or revolution. If we all stand together with Trump, then we might have a chance at redeeming this country. But in all honesty, we might already be too late. But we have to at least try. Even if you don't have a political bone in your body and you don't normally get out and vote, you better get out and vote or prepare for war. The last warning is that if we go to deport 20 to 30 million people, there will still be a small war because these illegal aliens have been given the right to possess weapons by the Biden administration, and this current government will most likely arm them to the teeth to fight the people actually trying to deport them. However, we already know the Democrats will simply say, "We don't know where they got all these weapons from," but you can't blame them for simply wanting to defend themselves. The Democrats have gone rogue. And if they have to be replaced, I say it should be replaced with the Tea Party. So yeah, replace the Democrats with the Tea Party. But seriously, if we just let this all slide, cower, and do nothing, do not think for a second that the Democrats will not use these illegal aliens, whom the majority are young fighting men, okay, to round up the Trump-supporting rural Christian nationalists, meaning you and me. It truly is us or them. Get your head out of the sand, people. This is not a time to be silent. As Dan Bongino would say, cutesy time is over. It's not time to put your head down and just work hard and pretend nothing is happening. This will not blow over, pass us by, or get resolved peacefully. This is your 8 a.m. wake-up call. It's time we either stand together right now or kneel later in chains. It's your choice. But not that the Democrats have really given us one. To segue to my next video, the current population according to the 2020 census is roughly 331.5 million people, with roughly 3.5 million people being born per year. So in 2024, the population should be 342 million. We will see after the 2024 census how much it has risen. Also, about 8 million voters are added to the total each election cycle. About 129 million in 2012, 137 million in 2016. It jumped dramatically to 160 million in 2020 because they cheated. The vote should have been about 145 million, but another 15 million fraudulent voters for Biden were added by buying the ballots from poor people. For this upcoming election in 2024, the vote should be at about 153 million, but I'm expecting close to or over 200 million votes, with about 70% or about 130 to 140 million being Democrats because they are cheating again. About 50 million fraudulent votes will be on the ballot. Sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings. But anyway, God bless and Godspeed to all those that love Him.